I'm going to LA because I'm not even going to try to speak Spanish. Allan Siposs is with us right now, Managing Director of MFV Capital Markets. Allan, thanks for being with us.
Pleasure to be here, Tracy. Thanks.
Let's talk about, I mean, this kind of all comes together now. You know, the economic climate is I think it's confusing. No one knows where it is because, as we talked earlier, there's a huge disconnect between Wall Street and Main Street. So what is the economy doing these days?
You know, it's interesting for owners of privately held companies. Now is actually a very interesting time if they're well prepared. What we're finding at FMV are those business owners that have taken steps in advance to prepare their companies are actually in a really good spot right now. There's a ton of capital on the sidelines, both private equity and strategic, and those buyers are anxious to deploy money.
Okay, so you got a lot of people out there that are ready to sell their businesses, is what you're saying. So I got these small businesses, and you know what? I've always said, if you survive this as a small business, I think you have a badge of honor that you should be wearing, because even if you made no money, you survived. There should be T-shirts out there or something, right? So you have these little small businesses that survived it. That, in and of itself, probably makes them a real good acquisition target.
That's right. If you survived what's been a very tough climate for many, many businesses, you've demonstrated your resilience. And again, buyers are looking for those types of companies. It's very tough for companies today to achieve what we call organic growth, to achieve growth without acquisitions. So they're looking for ways to build their businesses, and one terrific way to do that is through acquisitions.
Yeah, and so we've been seeing a lot of this, right? And again, we were talking earlier about how corporate America is beefing up their balance sheets. Heck, they're issuing debt because it's so darn cheap and they can do it. So they got all this cash on hand. I mean, we just saw Microsoft buy Skype, right? Cash.
Right.
So big companies coming out looking for the little guy. If I'm the little guy, how do I get my face out there? You know, how do I raise my hand and say, hey, look at me?
Well, first thing is it's so important for the little guys, you say, to get their team in place, to get their accountant, their attorney, their investment banker in place early, and to prepare themselves. The little guys negotiating against professional negotiators that are doing this for their job every single day. So they're really outmatched, and if they don't have the right team, they are going to be taken advantage of. That's why it's so important that they plan early and get their team going.
Do I approach, if I know that there's if I feel like there's a big, good corporate guy out there that would be the perfect match for me, do I approach them and say, hey, I don't know if you're looking to buy anything, but I could be perfect for you?
You certainly could do that, but let me warn you that in our world we always say one buyer is no buyer, because until you have some competition in the process, until you run what we call an auction, you're really not going to motivate that buyer to pay top dollar and to get the terms the way you want them. So you could do that, Tracy, but you'd be better off if you talk to a few people, not just one party.
Do you recommend small businesses hire someone to help through this process?
Absolutely. This is not something that a business owner should do by themselves. Just like a surgeon wouldn't operate on themselves, you shouldn't do this yourself if you're a business owner.
Okay, so this is what you guys do, right? You get out there, you represent these little guys. How do you find them? Do they come to you, or do you go out and approach small businesses?
You know, we've been doing this for 20-plus years, and we have a database of buyers that we know are active in the marketplace. So that's one of the first places we look. Then we do research on M&A activity, mergers and acquisitions activity, and where deals are happening. And we develop a list that's customized for every single business based on the qualities of that business and what might be unique to that particular buyer. And then those are the folks that we go to with a very intense process of getting them competitive, giving us a sense of scarcity and urgency so they may move quickly and definitively.
Yeah, we're seeing M&A on the rise, right? So
absolutely.
So for you, I got to believe this is a good time to be in your business. Have you seen it pick up over the last couple months? Because it seems to me, just as of lately, there's activity again.
Yeah, it's interesting. 08 was a tough year, obviously. 09 was another tough year. 2010 was about 20% up versus 09, so we saw a nice bump last year. And all indications are this year should be another good year. One of the things that's driving a lot of transactions are some pending tax law changes that you know about that are coming through at the end of next year. And if cap gains does go above 15% at the federal level, that's going to motivate a lot of people to get deals done before the end of next year. So we're seeing a lot of business owners, their companies are starting to improve. In certain segments, the economy is developing some foundational footing, and they're saying, let's go ahead and get a deal done now. We missed the last window of opportunity. Let's get a deal done now.
What are some of the mistakes these small businesses make?
You know, not planning early enough, having a business that's too dependent on their ownership. They've got all the relationships with the owner, not with key managers. Having too much revenue with one or two customers, so there's a concentration issue. Not having the right accountant, attorney, or representative to help them negotiate. Those are all common mistakes we see.
May I ask, what's some of the rationale for the small business guy wanting to sell? Is he done? Or is it an entrepreneurial thing where I got this to where I want to go, I want to do something else?
You know, first let me say for many business owners, selling is a tough emotional decision because so much of their personal identity is tied up with the business. What we typically see are one of four things. It's a business reason, they need a partnership or something from a business perspective that motivates them to sell. There's a value objective. If they can get X million dollars, they'll sell at that number. There may be a timing objective when they hit a certain age or when their kids graduate from college, they say, okay, now it's time. Or it may be a personal issue. It might be a health issue, or they just say, like you said, I'm done. I want to go sit on the beach in Tahiti.
It's interesting because I do think that I got to believe you're going to have a lot of people knocking on your door saying, hey, I survived this recession, but I am exhausted.
That's right.
I know these big corporate guys have money on there sitting around. Let's see if we could do something.
We've already seen an uptick in our activity at FMV Capital Markets, and we're expecting that it'll continue through the balance of this year and certainly into 2012.
Amen, and I hope the little guys score. Allan Siposs.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Allan Siposs, thanks for being with us. Managing Director of FMV Capital Markets in LA. Come back, sir. That was a good conversation.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
That's good stuff. I love that because you know what? There's a lot of people out there, and entrepreneurs in particular, the only reason they create companies is to sell them, right? And it's just like people buy and sell homes, although that didn't work out so well for a lot of people, but nevertheless, that's what some entrepreneurs do.